your lives, your people. The Non-Identity Podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, what time you're watching or listening to this. Today we're joined by a very special guest. He's from the Bexley area. He's a former detective from Scotland Yard. He's headed up the Channel 4 Hunted show, and he's also an author and a broadcaster. So welcome, Peter Bleksley.
Hello, and thank you very much for having me.
So, as we've mentioned in your intro, you're from the Bexley area. What was it like growing up in Bexley as a young lad?
I was born in what was a maternity hospital, so a hospital that was just for babies back in the day, because I'm that old, in Bursted Woods in Barnhurst.
Okay.
And it's now a medical centre. I was born there and lived in Barnhurst, about half a mile away from Barnhurst railway station. But unfortunately, my dad was an alcoholic and he was pretty abusive, particularly towards me. So my early childhood years were not particularly enjoyable until he left. I was about 10 or 11 when he left. But that meant that me, my mum and my older sister were in a house that we could no longer afford. So Mum eventually sold the house. My elder sister went off to do her nursing training, and me and Mum moved into a flat in Bexley Heath, just near the Crooklog pub, down by Crooklog Leisure Centre.
Oh, the old Toby Carby now.
That's it, yeah, indeed. Just round the corner from there. And but I was still going to school in Erith, what I think is now they've renamed it, isn't it? King Henry School.
Yeah.
So that was my secondary school. And to be honest with you, I made some really bad decisions as a young man, because Mum was working all the time. So I was kind of left to my own devices. There wasn't any uncles nearby or cousins. You know, there was no positive male role models for me to follow. So I was carving my own way in life. And unfortunately, I made some bad choices.
So, obviously, as you said, you made some bad choices and all that, but you turned out to join the police force. How did that come about?
I kind of, you know, those bad choices were like, I bunked off school and I did some shoplifting and, you know, I did some graffiti, things that I look back on and regret. I mean, they were just daft things to do. Nobody gained out of it. Certainly I didn't gain out of it. But when I left school at 16, things were a bit easier then in terms of getting a job. So I applied for a job as an assistant warehouseman in a chain of shops that used to be around in those days called Woolworths in Welling, as an assistant warehouseman. You know, I was moving boxes around all day, so I was physically active. My governor was a good laugh. He was all right. You could have a bit of fun with him. And the ladies in the shop, because I used to take all the boxes down to them whenever they ran out of anything or they needed to stock the shelves up, I got on really well with the ladies. So it was all good fun, and I was earning money. So I really loved it. And I worked very hard. You know, we had a bit of a laugh and a joke, but we got the job done. And I really enjoyed it. And but my mum kind of had greater ambitions for me. I think she wanted me to do something perhaps which was a bit more of a recognised career. So one night I came home to the flat, and sitting in the lounge was this enormous policeman in his full uniform.
Wow.
And I was thinking, blimey, am I in trouble? What have I done? But fortunately, the policeman was there to talk to me about the possibility of joining the police. And he told me what a great job it was, how there was so many different jobs you could do. If you liked dogs, you could be a dog handler. If you liked horses, you could ride a horse. If you wanted to carry a gun, you could go into the firearms branch. You could become a detective if you wanted to solve crimes. Loads and loads more types of jobs as well. And he really sold the idea to me. coupled with all that variety and excitement that there would be, it would be a regular wage. You're not going to get made redundant. You're not going to lose your job as long as you behave yourself. And at the end of it, you get a pension. So it was like, well, this sounds like a good idea. And he actually pulled the job application form out for me. That's how old I am. You filled out a paper application form, not online and click submit, or send, stuck it in the letterbox. And I was lucky enough to be accepted after I'd had some interviews and all of that. And suddenly I was then 17 and I walked through the gates of Hendon Police Cadet College. I was as proud as punch. And I really enjoyed the things there that I hadn't enjoyed beforehand, like discipline, respect for others, self-respect. I learned to have some self-respect. So instead of doing stupid things, I took pride in my uniform and I polished my boots and I ironed my trousers and I learned how to iron a shirt properly, all those sort of things. And I had a really, really good time and it changed my life.
And do you think the discipline side of things and that is what you was missing? Because as you said, what happened with your father and your mum was trying her hardest to provide for you every day, keep food on the table, keep a roof over your head. Do you feel that in your teenage years that discipline is what was missing, and to then be able to go to Hendon and get that back, that sort of brought you back into the straight and narrow?
Discipline was key. My dear old mum, who is still with us, I love her to bits. She is still with us. My mum gave me all the love I could have wanted. She made sure that there was food on the table, a bed to sleep in, all of those things, which I was very kind of grateful for. But it was kind of, that discipline. I kind of stupidly, I kind of resented it at school. So I didn't get the exams I should have done, and I wish I had, because it would have made life easier. But yeah, when I got to Hendon, and it was all that respect, and some of these people, the instructors, were tough people. You know what I mean? You couldn't say, if they said, Bleksley, I just saw you leaning on that wall, get down for 10 press-ups. You couldn't go, or what? These were tough guys. They'd have said, okay, you and me in the gym now. And I would have come second. It was what taught me, as I say, respect and self-respect, and the discipline changed my life.
Before we go a bit more into police, the police force and the training and stuff, so back at school, was there any subjects you did enjoy back at school?
PE. Get whatever exams you can, because they do make life a bit easier. And don't worry about the grades. If somebody else is getting an A star and you're getting a lower grade, it shows that you've worked hard and you've done your very best and you've got the best grade that you can. And if you're reading and writing, if you can crack that, that is so important. And let me just tell you, because I'm fast forwarding a bit now, I'm an author. I write books, right? I left school at 16 and now I'm an author. And you know why I'm an author? Because I read a lot. And the more I read, the better my writing becomes.
Right, we'll jump back into the police training. Was it fun? Was it hard? Was it, like, as you said, you had a lot of discipline and all that, but was the activities that you were learning, were they fun, and are they life lessons? And
it was physically hard. There was a lot of physical training went on. You would get sent out to do 5-mile runs every other day or every third day or something. And there was PE, and there was learning how to march properly, how to swing your arms and put the right foot forward and all that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of physical training, and there was a lot of sport. So if you wanted to play football or cricket or rugby or race walking or boxing, you name it, you could do it. So I thoroughly enjoyed all of that. There was also, of course, the classroom stuff, because you had to learn the laws, because obviously as a copper, you've got to know what the law is. You've got to know when you can and can't arrest someone. You've got to know what offence you're going to be arresting them for. So there was a lot of the classroom stuff as well, but I just really enjoyed all of it. I think because it was kind of very different from school. I'm going to admit that, but but even so, all these years later, I wish I'd got my head down at school, really, because it would have made life a bit easier.
So you go through Hendon, and you get stationed. Is it Peckham was your first police station?
Yeah, Peckham in South London, tough area.
Yeah, and how was it like your first day? As you said, you was like 17 years old, wasn't you? And out on the street and stuff. How did you find that?
I got to Peckham. I was 18, getting on 19, because I did my cadet training, then went in as a PC, and I couldn't wait to get out on the streets of Peckham. But it was a tough area. You know, there was a lot of poverty, a lot of social deprivation, as they call it. You know, where people haven't got anything or very much at all, and there was a lot of angry people there. It was a difficult place to police, but you learnt a lot very, very quickly. And after I'd been at Peckham for 4 years, I applied for and became a detective, and then I went to a very different place.
And what made you want to become a detective? Was it just progression in your job?
I'd done my bit in uniform. I didn't want to wear the uniform anymore. I wanted to be a detective. I wanted to wear plain clothes, or I wanted to wear a nice suit to court, and you know, all that kind of stuff. So so I went down that route, and I was lucky enough to be accepted.
And once you become a detective, you also went into undercover work. Is it like the movies, and you're living someone else's life, or mentally is it very draining? Or...
So I've been a detective for 3.5 years, so I've been a cop for 7 years now. Right. At the time, I was 25. I got accepted to New Scotland Yard to go and work on what was then called the Central Drug Squad. So it was the Metropolitan Police's kind of top Premier League drug squad, if you will. And it was there that I saw how they were doing undercover operations. And I thought, you know what, I can do this. And I think I might be able to do it a bit better. So then for 10 years, I went off pretending to be a gangster. So I dressed like a gangster, walked, talked, acted like a gangster, and I bought millions upon millions of pounds worth. Funny money, as we called it, counterfeit currency, high value stolen goods. So lorry loads full of very expensive trainers or very expensive whiskey, sometimes works of art that have been stolen from museums and all that kind of stuff. And I had a really kind of remarkable 10 years, to be honest.
And is it like a 9 to 5 job where you can just go home and turn off from the person you've been that day, or was it a 24-hour round the clock? So it's not as glamorous as the movies make out.
No, there was glamorous moments sometimes, because some of the crooks had a few quid and they wanted to meet in nice hotels and nice restaurants, and that was all okay, albeit it was still difficult and challenging and sometimes scary to negotiate with them. And other times, crooks wanted to take you to their estate, up to their flat that was guarded on the front door with a bloke that was built like a shed. So a lot of the time it was scary and challenging, but I had a talent for it. And I think in life, if you can discover something that is, number one, legal, and number two, you've got a talent for it, then pursue it. A living out of it, then that, of course, is brilliant.
So after you left the police force and all that stuff, you then moved into the TV career. So you was the lead chief on Channel 4's Hunted. For people who don't know what Hunted is, basically it's like a big game of hide and seek, really, isn't it? With the members of the public competing for a prize, going up against ex-police force or army people, trying to find out where they are. How true is it? Because there's a lot of criticism online saying people running around with camera crews, can you really hide? While you're filming, is it exactly how it's laid out on TV? People do go on the run. You guys are actually using the stuff that you can use to find them, or is it producers saying, like, this week so-and-so's in Scotland, we're going to concentrate in Scotland?
Is an entertainment show, of course, but the prize that is on offer is £100,000 that the fugitives are trying to win a share of, or all of it if they were the only fugitive to evade capture. So it's a very heavily regulated show. And by that, I mean, there's an awful lot of rules.
Yeah.
There is a series referee who sits on top of the show. And out of the 165 people that are involved in making that program, only 3 people know what is going on with the hunters and the fugitives. And it's absolutely straight down the line. Don't believe the cynics, the moaners, the whingers, the people that go, it's a fix. They don't know anything about it. And if that show was not absolutely chock-a-block full of integrity, I would have had nothing to do with it. I value my reputation more than I value any television show.
And I think 20 years as a police officer and a Scotland Yard detective, you've got a lot of credibility behind you. So for you to be involved in a show like that just proves for you guys how straight down the line it was. So as you went into work that day, you were effectively hunting fugitives. Do you think the show brought across the message well enough to the general public that this is what the state can do if you go on the run? So don't go on the run in the first place. Don't commit a crime. Do you think that helped bring the message across? Or
maybe it did. Yeah, maybe it did. It certainly showed, because we copied the powers that the police or the security services or the National Crime Agency might have. We used those powers in the show. And if it did dissuade someone from committing a crime and going on the run, then that, of course, would be a wonderful side effect of it. Believe you me, committing a crime and having to go on the run is really not something you want to do.
No, definitely not.
Imagine living every day of your life looking over your shoulder, thinking, is this the day they're going to catch me? That's no way to live your life. You know what? And I am an old bloke now. I'm 61. And of course, when I worked undercover, I used to tell lies for a living.
Yeah.
I was a professional liar. That was my job. But if we just park that for a moment, if there's one thing that I've learned in 61 years on this planet, and I've been through a few things, let me tell you, it is that the truth has never got me in trouble.
No.
It's always been the lies, right? Yeah, but look at school, right?
Yeah.
School in the United Kingdom is actually free.
Exactly.
It doesn't cost you anything. Now, name me something else that's free, right? Somebody's going to say oxygen. Yeah, all right. Right, okay. Name me something else that you get for nothing, that is free. And you get education for nothing. Exactly. So please make the most of it, because you have to pay for everything else.
Hunted's finished, and now you spent the last 2 years doing a real life hunt for an actual fugitive, a man by the name of Kevin Parle. He's wanted for questioning in some heinous crimes, but you've made it your mission to find Kevin and bring him back to the UK to answer questions that he needs to answer. Why did you choose to do this?
The crimes he's wanted for are extremely serious. And he's been on the run for 16 years. And I think that, you know, it's important in life that we have a sense of justice, that we feel things are just and fair. Because if we don't, when there is injustice, it upsets people, and it's not right. And I think Kevin Parle is wanted for very serious crimes. He needs to stand in front of a court and answer the allegations made against him. That's how it works. You know, so my hunt for Kevin Parle is about truth over lies, because a lot of people have told me lies, but I've found them out. So it's truth over lies. It's about right over wrong. And it's about trying to achieve justice for the victims of those crimes that he is alleged to have committed.
And you're saying earlier on about your integrity and all that. You're not making any money off of this hunt. You're putting all your profits into actually trying to hunt Kevin down. So for people who want to know more about this, where can they go to find out more about what you're actually doing, and if they can help you out in any way? Or
The easiest place is to go to my website, please. Now, my surname is very unusual, and I'll spell it for you. So my website is Peter Bleksley, and you spell Bleksley BLEKSLEY. So go to peterbleksley.com and you'll find out all you need to know. Have a good surf around it and go on all the different sections, and you'll find out an awful lot about my hunt for Kevin Parle.
Lovely, thank you. And I'll put the links in the description below as well for you, so people can click on straight away and find out.
Thank you. I'm all across social media, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, Peter Bleksley, I'm on Twitter, Insta, Facebook, and excuse me, LinkedIn. I always yawn when I talk about LinkedIn. Oh, it's such a snore off, isn't it? So anyway, I have to be on it.
And then, so finally, what advice would you give to young people wanting to follow a career like the police or TV broadcasting, or as you said earlier, you're an author?
I would say this, and this is the best bit of life advice I could give anybody. There is absolutely no substitute for hard work, right?
Exactly.
You can have all the talent in the world. You can be the greatest footballer that's ever played in Danson Park, right? But if you don't work hard, you ain't gonna achieve anything. And my attitude, right? This is my definition of success. If you can pay the bills and do something you enjoy, then you're successful.
Well, Peter, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. My pleasure.